So we had a little bit kind of talk before we started recording. And again, Katie, she lives in Scotland. Again, and as you talked before, it's not the best perfect place for astronomy or astrophotography, but you still get those days. First, I want to ask you, because you guys and girls, did you see me for the minute? You're going to see Katie here just in a second. 5 years ago, you did portrait and wedding photography. So can you explain us, how do you go from that? And I see a lot of great photography that's probably being done by you as well behind you. So how do you go from that into astrophotography? Can you explain to people?
Yeah, certainly. Well, like you said, Martinus, I took up photography 5 years ago and started with portraiture and weddings. And as a child, my dad always had binoculars and a telescope. So he would let us look through it. And I was always intrigued by the moon and Orion Nebula and such. And it was only about maybe 3 years ago, or coming up in 3 years ago, there was a beautiful moon out at night. And I thought, I wonder if I can take a picture of that moon's craters. I mean, if I can do it, if I can look through a telescope, surely a telephoto zoom lens is going to let me do similar. So I took the camera and tripod out, put a zoom lens on and zoomed in. And first couple of shots I took were completely blown out, too white, because I didn't know the settings. I didn't know everything had to be in manual. So that was, a bit trying. But after a while, I managed to suss these things out. And I took a couple of images and then looked at them on the live view on the back of the camera. And it was just spectacular. I could see the craters, I could see the dimples. The definition was definitely there. And I thought, wow. So next clear night, I set myself a goal and thought, let's see if I can try something further out. And with it being the winter months, Orion was up in our skies, our night skies. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try for the Orion Nebula. And I zoomed in and I thought, wait a wee minute, if I do this, how long do I take this exposure for? Because I don't have a star tracker, so I'm going to get star trails, anything, over, I'd say about 10 seconds. But it turned out anything over 1.5 seconds, I was getting star trails. So I chose to do 200 shots of the Orion Nebula at 1 second intervals. And then I had to Google and find out, how do I stack? Because I had found out on YouTube that you have to stack all your images. And so that came about, managed to get to download Deep Sky Stacker, and followed a couple of YouTube tutorials, and up pops the Orion Nebula. And it was a red blob. Nobody could have seen it and looked and went, yes, that's the Orion Nebula. It didn't look anything like the Orion Nebula. And I thought, right, okay, there's something I'm not doing here. There's something wrong with this. So I came back inside and went onto YouTube, as most people do, and into a couple of forums, and found out, yeah, I had forgotten to, when I was doing the stacking, to do darks and flats and things like that. And so I went back out, did it all again. This time I added, I think it was like 175 images, stacked them, and there before me was the Orion Nebula with color, and it was just mind-blowing for me. I was absolutely in awe, and that was the start of my journey. I thought, I have to find out what more can I do? How do I go about this? And how can I do it with just my camera and my lens? Because I don't have a tracker, I don't have a mount. All I've got is a tripod, a camera, and a remote shutter release cable. So I thought, okay. And like a lot of people, you follow certain people on YouTube and Instagram, and I had Googled astrophotographers, and Trevor Jones' Astro Backyard came up quite a lot. So I started following Trevor and Peter Zelinkas, and these two guys were showing me a whole new playing field on how to do this with the same equipment minus a star tracker. And it was just a case of, instead of me getting long exposures of 60 seconds or 120 seconds, I was having to take hundreds of images at 1 second and then sit for hours trying to stack all this together. But it's part and parcel of the learning process. And I'm a great believer that when you put the effort in, you will be rewarded for it, you know, in the long run. And it taught me how to use my camera. Everything's in manual mode. And it also taught me patience, which is something I don't normally have a lot of. But that in itself, it taught me just to relax, enjoy what you're doing, and, you know, reap the results at the end of it. So yeah, so that, as I say, was the beginning of my journey. Yeah,
that's beautiful. How long ago was that?
That was when I started doing the actual astrophotography. It was just about going into 3 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, and again, as you told me that before we started recording, because of that, now how in depth you are with astrophotography. Now you even started an Instagram account, which yes, of course is going to be included in the show notes. So you have to make sure that you follow, again, Katie here. You're going to find a lot of great photos, her personal work. Again, it's beautiful equipment. And of course, you can always send her a DM and ask her questions about post-processing, editing, buying an equipment, you know, all these great questions. So what would you say for the people now? Because again, we kind of talked about it a little bit in a kind of, you know, this tough COVID situation. As I said, you know, there's a lot of people starting astrophotography or just getting involved with the, you know, anything related to space. Facebook pages are popping up every single day. So what would you say for the rest of the people who are, it's like the first episode or that they're seeing or listening, and they don't know this is existing? You can take Orion Nebula, you know, with a camera, you can do that. Like, what would you tell those people? Like, why space should be important for us?
Well, what I would say is, well, first of all, I'll be upfront and honest. As I said to you earlier, Martinus, it's not for everyone, but it's one of those hobbies that rewards you with so much. And if you're just wanting to start out, if you are just starting out and you've never taken a deep space image before, don't let that put you off. That, no, I can't do that. I'm seeing all these wonderful images. Don't let that dissuade you. We all have to start somewhere, and it's not as daunting as people might think. It's not exactly simple, but if you're prepared to listen and, you know, ask questions about settings and use what you've got at, you know, at your hands, at your fingertips. Don't go out buying expensive equipment to take it up if you don't know what you're doing. Start off small and work up to it, progress up to it. And the reason I say that is we're living in fantastic times just now as far as astronomy goes. It's absolutely amazing what is on offer, and especially for this younger generation coming up. You know, the sky is not the limit. It's further. You can do anything, be anything in the astronomy field, in the space field. You know, a lot of people like myself growing up as a young kid, I thought in order to work in astro sites, that type of thing, in the astronomy field, I would have to be a scientist, an engineer. And once again, I'm going to say this, it was mostly a male-dominated area back then, back in, you know, like the 50s, the 60s, right up till maybe the millennium. All of a sudden, you start to see women coming into this area. And it's amazing, the progression that has come out of that. And I think any young boy or girl growing up in today's times, you know, the world's your oyster. You know, you can see and do so much. And we're talking about kids that are growing up seeing the International Space Station every night. To them, it's not a big deal. But to someone like me, yes, this still amazes me. Just to go out and watch that fly over my house at night, because we didn't have anything like that when I was growing up, you know. And just to give people an idea, I was born in the early 60s. Shh, don't count. I was born in the early 60s, and all we had back then was the footage of the man going to the moon. And that was an amazing event, and still is to this day. But we didn't have the technology that you have got at present. So I would say to anyone that wants to maybe try getting into astrophotography, do it. Do it. Nothing, don't let anything stop you. Everything's there at your fingertips on a computer. You have Google, you have YouTube, which is my best friend, and you have people in astronomy forums who will drop everything to help you. They're not precious about keeping everything to themselves. They actually take more enjoyment seeing you progress, you know, to see where you've started, where you are just now, and what was the final product. And they enjoy seeing that excitement and bringing it out, nurturing it. You know, let's nurture it. So I would say anyone beginning, feel free to contact the likes of myself or anyone on Instagram, on any astronomy platform. They'll always get back to you, always get back to you. And even when you see, I was a bit daunted when I first joined Instagram, when I seen that so many people had thousands and thousands of followers, and you think, oh my Lord, what did they do to get all this? And you're seeing these images, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'm not at that level yet, so I'm not going to get that amount of following. And I started up my page, and I can literally say within 8 weeks, it went from maybe 20, 30 people to, I think I'm up like in the 300-400s now. I haven't checked, to be honest.
300-400?
Something like that. It's starting to grow every day.
Wow, that's amazing.
It certainly is, in only a matter of weeks. And as I say, once you start joining other pages and start showing off your images, people take an interest. They start tagging you in things, and their friends see the tag, and then they join in and want to follow you. And as I say, it's amazing what social media can do for you. So yeah, as I say, anyone, young or old, anyone starting out, you can start out with a simple camera and tripod, you know, exactly how I started out. And I stuck with that for the best part of 2 years, and then decided to go that little bit further and start investing in other equipment. But I think that comes with astrophotography. Once you feel comfortable with your equipment and you see what you're producing, it's only natural that you want to progress that bit further and evolve that bit further and get deeper into it. And it's certainly, you know, it can be a money pit if you allow it. It can be a rabbit hole that you can fall down and, you know, buy some serious equipment and that is expensive. And that's fine if you want to do that and you can afford that. But if not, start off small and add to it. Even in buying secondhand, which I do myself often. I've bought quite a bit of equipment secondhand because the majority of people in the astrophotography field, they keep their equipment as best as they possibly can in pristine condition sometimes. And if not, it'll be in, you know, very good condition because they know that when they want to move on, they're going to sell certain things. So the better condition it's in, you know, to give to someone else. And the same with cameras. I bought my Astro modified camera. I bought that secondhand. That's not brand new. That's a secondhand camera. And it's a Canon 450D and it's Astro modified. And this is like a little workhorse, absolutely amazing little Canon camera, which I think I got for like £225, which is absolutely nothing compared to what you would pay if you were buying the camera brand new and then having to get it modified on top of that. So there is ways to pick these items up and on a budget, you know. Yep. And still get the same enjoyment and still get similar results as people with more expensive equipment are getting. It just takes more time and more patience, but you will get that result.
Exactly. So the patience is the thing that we're talking about. As you talked before, this is the golden word that we're looking for. Patience. So first off, congrats on 400 plus followers on Instagram and on the success that you're achieving on the channel. And guys and girls, we need to at least 2.5 times that. So make sure that Katie reaches at least 1,000. So you know, help her out. You know, give a follow. It doesn't hurt because she has a lot of great, amazing photos. And actually really great engagement on your account as well. So because of the photos look great work. Again, she put in times and effort, and I see the equipment there as well. So of course, so can you tell us what you're currently working with, what type of equipment, and what would you recommend for the beginners also?
Truthfully, for a beginner, I would say if you can invest in a star tracker, that will be the best piece of equipment you will buy when you're first learning astrophotography. It was a godsend for me. I purchased an Ioptron Sky Tracker Pro, and I thought, well, I had seen it on YouTube once again from Trevor Jones saying, you know, if you can buy this, you will get longer exposures, and here's what you will get in, you know, like the end product. So I bought this sky tracker, put my camera and my lens on it, and set up and went outside. And I would say the most cumbersome part of it is trying to polar align and make sure that you are well polar aligned. Now, if you're doing wide field, you can be forgiven for being off a bit in polar alignment, and you know it will allow for that. You're okay that way. But if you're doing anything like any of the up close and personal on Horsehead Nebula and that, no, you would have to be perfectly polar aligned or it's just going to ruin the shot. And I would also say for people that are using trackers with cameras, take the camera belt off, take the strap off, because a few times the wind would gust and my strap would start moving about and it was causing blur in my images. But to get back to your question, yes, if you can pick up a second-hand tracker on any of the buy and sell sites, I would say yes, heavily invest in one. You will get so much enjoyment out of it. Doing these longer exposures, instead of doing an image a second, you can do one for 60 seconds. And maybe depending on the weight of the camera and lens that you're using, if it's a small lens and a lightweight camera, you'll get maybe away with 3 minutes, which is absolutely amazing. Some people only do that with mounts, with like Skywatcher HEQ5 Pro mounts, 3 and 4 minutes. So yeah, go look into, you know, what trackers are more suitable for you, and if you can find one, pick it up. Definitely pick it up. But my equipment at present, I've progressed now. As I say, I've went from the Sky Tracker to getting an HEQ5 Pro mount, a Skywatcher. Santa Claus brought me that this past Christmas, and I was so happy to, you know, progress to this, but I had no idea how to operate it. So it was back to the blackboard again, get YouTube on, get people talking, go on forums, ask some questions. And most people asked, well, what are you using? Are you using a telescope? And I said, no, I'm using a camera and a lens. What kind of lens? And I'm like, well, it'll be anything up to a 400mm on a crop camera. So you're talking maybe 550, 600mm. So they're like, yes, here's what you can do. So I started off going into the handset that came with the mount and putting in, you know, Andromeda. And once I had polar aligned it, it would go round. And I started doing like 3-minute exposures, and I was jumping up and down, squealing with excitement, seeing these images on the back of the camera. And I thought, I can't wait to get my hands on this and edit them. But only about 6-7 weeks ago, I ventured into guiding, something I didn't know anything about again. And, you know, like guiding equipment, PhD2, I had no idea. And Nina, which is obviously the nighttime imaging software. But I thought when people were talking about Nina, they were talking about a specific person. I thought they were actually talking about someone. So I downloaded all these programs and software and thought, I'm going to try it. And it's been a total game changer for me. Total game changer. Just the guiding alone, I can now do 5-minute exposures without even worrying about a star trail. And I can get images of objects deeper in the sky because I can spend that much time photographing them and getting as many photons as I possibly can. So yeah, as I say, my mount's over here to the right of me and my sky tracker's in front of me. And on my table, I've got my SpaceX 51. Everything's all round about me because I was doing a wee bit of maintenance and cleaning and babying my products. I love my Space Cat. That's my latest lens. I got that last year, just before we went into lockdown. I got that, and it's never been off my camera since. It just lives there. It just lives on that camera, and it sits on the mount, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing bit of kit. So yeah, and as I say, I got my mount, believe it or not, my HEQ5 second hand. that was bought from another astrophotographer on a Facebook selling site. And because we were on the same Facebook pages and forums, you develop a trust, even though you've never met these people, you develop a trust. And I met up socially distanced to pick this up. And as I say, it's just changed everything for me. It now makes me want to go out and buy a small telescope to add on to it now to you know, so that I can have both my camera and a telescope with the space cat all going at the one time. I'm being greedy now, but that's what this type of photography does to you and what this hobby does to you, you know. So you'll never be rich, not in astrophotography.
That's very good. That's very, so again, coming back to the, you know, somebody who's looking to get started, like I got some people who said, look, all you need is actually a cell phone camera. I know some people who I talk with, you know, actually had them on the show. I seen them now on Facebook. They're putting out, you know, pictures of Milky Way and things like that, just with a iPhone 11 Pro. They do that. So this is achievable. Again, another kind of step up is using a DSLR. And again, so for people here who are thinking about, okay, I don't want to use a cell phone. I already have a DSLR. Maybe that's for my kind of, you know, for the wedding photography, for something for nature. I want to go and buy the telescope. Like, what telescopes are you personally looking at? Any particular brands or, you know, telescopes and mounts that you would recommend?
Yeah. Well, I had a telescope for observational purposes for a few years there, and it was the Celestron Nexstar 6S8, and it was on an out-as mount, so it was perfect for observational use. And yeah, I suppose you could take some images with it, but they would be very short exposures because you really need the equatorial mount. So I sold my telescope and bought the Williams Optic Space Cat 51. I actually purchased the red cat, but they didn't have any coming in anytime soon, and it was like 3 months down the road when they phoned me and said, we have the space cat, which is the exact same as the red cat, just a different color. And I says, I'm not fussed over the color, send it to me. And I absolutely love this because it is a mini telescope on its own. It's a Petzval. It comes with you know, all these little extras, and what I love is it came in a bag with the face of the cat and the whiskers, and when you look close you see all that. And obviously when you put your Batonov mask on, that is exactly what you see, is these whiskers. So I thought that is so cool that they've even taken the detail of that. So that is my go-to telescope at present. I am saving at the moment and hoping to try for maybe the Skywatcher ED80. I've been doing a bit of research on that, and I think, you know, it's a good all-rounder telescope for wide field and for doing some closer up shots, especially with the field flattener and what have you. So that's going to be my next upgrade, unless I see something on the buy and sell websites that I think maybe, you know, is worth investing that little bit for a wee bit more. But I would love to try the ED80, most definitely. And obviously there's other ones out there like the Esprit 100, the 120. Yeah, but financially, I you know, it's going to take me a while if I wanted to go for something like that. But as I say, if you can afford, you know, the space cat, I would highly recommend the Williams Optic Space Cat. The wide field images that you get are absolutely spectacular, and very little chromatic aberration, if any. And it's lightweight, it's portable, and it also fits on my tracker with my camera without dragging anything. Whereas the EP.95, that weighs a lot, especially for someone like me who's only 5'2" and 100 pounds. So it's easier for me to have that bit of portability. So I have the tracker, the space cap, and my tripod, and off I go. And you know, I dare anybody to say, yeah, but you're not going to get, you know, the images like you see on this page and that page. Yes, you will. And like you were saying, Martinus, yes, some people prefer their phone. I have never personally used my phone for, you know, I have the iPhone 11 Pro, and I don't think I've ever really used it for night photography at all. But I do know some people, and I have advised them and said, you know, get yourself the adapter for the tripod on the phone, things like that. Keep it as still as possible and get your exposure. And, you know, they're happy. And like most folk, I started out, like most people do in astrophotography, doing Milky Way. I absolutely love doing the Milky Way, even to present day. And as I say, people are doing that in their phone. And I think that's what's bringing a lot of interest as well, because most of the young generation have their phones attached to their hip 24 hours a day. So any event that's happening, you know, they're straight out with the phone. And you can also, if you know someone that's got a telescope, you can get, you know, an adapter to put your phone onto it, and you can get some amazing images of deep sky up there. You know, you'll get to see the Orion Nebula through your phone and be able to image it just as well as some of the DSLRs. The technology in these phones are absolutely.
Yep. I have spoke recently, not actually long ago, with Danielle Wilcox. You know, she's part of the Stella, and she actually does a lot of those photographies that you're going to find on her Instagram account. Also, she just uses, of course, her equipment, but she takes the photos again just with the cell phone camera. You know?
That's correct. Danielle she uses her phone, as you say, for her imaging, and she puts it up next to Eleanor, her telescope, and uses that. And I didn't know that when I first got to know Danielle. I was looking at her images, and I assumed that she had a DSLR attached to Eleanor, her telescope, her Meade telescope. And when she told me it was her phone, my mind was just blown. And I thought, wow. And it comes down to personal choice for everyone. And I'm just used to a camera because that's what I first started with, and borrowing my husband's camera. And you kind of stay loyal to certain makes and models and companies. And don't get me wrong, I've tried Nikon. The only thing I haven't tried yet is a Sony. I haven't tried any Sony equipment. But I have tried the Nikon, and everything is in the complete opposite of what a Nikon is. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Instead of turning to the left to take my lens off of the Canon, I'm turning right to take it off a Nikon. It was confusing for me. So I just thought, no, stick with the devil, you know. It works for me. And I'm sure it's the same with people with phones. You'll have people who are dedicated Apple phone people and other ones that are Samsung. I've had both. I've had quite a few different makes in my time, but the last 12 years I've stuck with iPhones. They just suit me. You know, I like the easy touch screens and things like that. But as I say, it comes down to personal choice.
Exactly. You know? And I'm a weird person because I have both. So
Oh,
I
wow.
I cannot decide. I'm just like, I'm confused. I'm like, Apple is good, people using Apple. So as you said, it's when it comes to buying an equipment, again, it's for everybody prefers different things.
Yeah.
Again, I know that you're part of the Stella community where, again, you're empowering ladies
Yes,
to join astronomy ranks, which is, again, it's a beautiful community.
they
Can't
are.
recommend enough for somebody to get in contact with them, again, with Katie, because she's part of the community. Like, how much of you do you talk about the equipment? I mean, it's a good place to get some advice, because there's a lot of people who have a lot of experience. Some
Yep.
of those people, again, Helena had her on the show, Danielle, of course, and
Yes.
yourself right now. So how do you talk about this equipment, and how do you differentiate what is a good piece, not a good piece? So maybe it will be easier for the beginner to understand kind of, again, brands, is there a particular ones? Again, we talked about Skywatcher kind of when it comes to the mounts. So
Yep.
any particular other brands or other pieces that somebody needs to get started?
That's a fantastic question, because just recently, for my birthday, I purchased the ZWO ASSI 533 Pro dedicated astro camera. I'm still waiting on it being delivered as we speak, and I wasn't completely clued up on these dedicated cameras, but I knew that I wanted to get one.
And
Because
can I ask a question, Katie? Just for the people, could you explain what is the difference between regular DSLR and astronomy dedicated camera?
well, your regular DSLR, you will incur a lot of noise in your images due to the sensor heating up quite a bit as well, and like gradients in your image, because DSLRs weren't originally built for doing this type of photography. So yeah, it comes with its issues, which can be eradicated in Photoshop editing and gradient exterminators, don't get me wrong. Now, with a dedicated astro camera, like yourself, I wanted to know, why do I want to move up to this? What benefit is it going to give me? And well, first of all, I'm forever buying batteries for my Canon DSLR. The cold at night takes out all the energy out the battery, so I'm constantly changing. And sometimes, well, not just sometimes, all the time, when you're in the middle of a guiding session and all of a sudden the guiding stops because the batteries run out, and you don't notice it right away, and you're sitting there happily staring up at space for about an hour or two, and you've lost that hour or two of imaging. So I thought, I'm getting tired of constantly charging up batteries. How can I eradicate that? And that's when the idea of buying a dedicated astro camera came in. And the one I chose comes as pro cooled, so you can cool it down to, I think it's like minus 40 degrees. So the more I think in my country, being in Scotland, I'll only ever need to go down to minus 10. And I don't live in Alaska or Iceland, so I'm pretty sure minus 10 is going to be good enough. That reduces a lot of the noise in the image and a lot of the gradients, because the sensor is built to take these long exposures. In these cameras, the sensor won't heat up as much as a DSLR sensor would. And when your sensor heats up, you start not just to get gradients, but you can start to see maybe blotches and color fragments all changing in the image, and streaks. There's so many things can happen if you don't allow your sensor to cool down. If you're using a DSLR, for every 60-second image you take, at least take 6 or 7, even 10 seconds break in between images to allow your sensor to cool down. So when I get this dedicated astro camera. This is me now evolving to the next level. And it will help also with my cable management, because I have so many cables running from cameras to trackers to batteries to, you know, there's just so many cables. So this will also help as well be, you know, a bit more controllable. So I'm looking forward to getting that. And the other thing being, I've gone for the 533, which is colored. I haven't gone for the mono. I actually considered looking at the mono cameras, but I thought that means then I've got to look for filters to add on to it, to, you know, to bring out the colors and what have you. And I thought that's just too expensive too soon. Let's try the one-shot color, and if it works, great. But I did my due diligence. I went on to Stella and a few other forums and asked them, you know, give me your feelings on it. You have bought these different types of astro cameras. What is your preference? And give me the reviews on it. And it's been absolutely fantastic. Some people have a preference for mono. Others wanted the color for the exact same reason as me. It's like, well, mono takes a bit, the monochrome ones are a wee bit more work, and I'm not afraid of hard work, but it means that you need to buy the filters, the LRGB filters to go with it. And, you know, as I say, they're not cheap items. You have to, and because of COVID and supply and demand, it's taken quite a while for anybody to be able to buy anything and get it right away. It's taking months of back orders and waiting times. So when my camera comes in, as I say, I'll definitely keep everyone posted. You'll see the images up there, and hopefully they'll be able to put, you know, my old images with the new ones and see a difference. I'm hoping that's the case. I don't see why not. I'm actually excited about it, to be perfectly honest. I'm desperate to use it. But in Scotland, we are now coming into astronomical twilight. So it's going to be difficult to get any proper darkness now until autumn. So yeah, no, there is that difference, as I say, between the two cameras. But DSLR, I can't fault it. It's done well by me. I still use it, and I probably still will use it. I'll have two setups going, one with the DSLR and one with the dedicated astro camera on the mount. So I'll have two setups going at all times, trying different things, you know. So a bit on the greedy side.
Here you go. So we're definitely going to be looking forward to you upgrading your equipment and, you know, showing the type of work that you're going to get with that. Again, you know, Galaxy season is here, which I seen that you have a few photos, again, talked about the Andromeda Galaxy as well. So, but again, you're talking about the conditions that are going to be in Scotland. They're not going to be available for you to kind of, you know, to do the work. No. So again, and do you take a data, let's say from observatories, do you use somebody else's data sometimes to do the work, or would you recommend that for people, you know, I'm talking about telescope live type of stuff or astronomy, or would you recommend kind of wait it out for best, you know, weather conditions?
Well, in Scotland, we get maybe about between 50 and 60 clear nights a year. Nothing like California where they get 300 clear nights a year, the difference being. But as far as live observatories going into their archives, bringing down images from NASA, I tried it once. I tried the NASA archives and I downloaded the Pillars of Creation. And I just wanted, I knew that I wouldn't be able to capture it with the lens that I had at the time. And I thought, I just for once want to work on it and play with the colors and see if I can do it justice. And it turned out fantastic. But, and it's wonderful that NASA allows us to do that. And it's the same with the observatories where you can you know, rent that space time to go in and use their equipment, like especially like Tenerife, going up. Now, I was in Tenerife last September. The one thing we don't get here in Scotland is very much of the Milky Way core. We only get between 1.5 and 2 degrees of it. And I wanted to capture the core with the Rho Ophiuchi. And it was a case, do I go online and rent some time with the observatory, or do I just get a plane ticket and go? So I went. But I know a lot of people who actually go on and chip onto the Chile observatory, and they use the telescopes, and they get to take their images and also download images from the archive. And for folk like me, that is great in the summer months when, you know, we don't get any dark sky, and it keeps us up to date with editing and keep us, you know, like occupied until the dark nights are in again. I personally think it's an amazing thing to be able to get in and do it. And once again, Martinus, if people aren't ready to go out and buy equipment, try it online. Try actually, you know, even call your local observatory.
Go visit Daniel.
Yeah, go to Cork. Go to Cork and visit Danielle. I think the whole of the Stella ladies were all going over to Ireland to meet up with Danielle at Blackrock Castle. I mean, who has a telescope on top of a castle? You know, who has an observatory that's situated on a castle? And I'm like, wow, it's a fairy tale. And we love her. I mean, we love hearing the stories and seeing the images and what have you, and the podcasts, much like your own. We sit there with bated breath, waiting to listen to what you have got to tell us. But as I say, if you're not going out to buy equipment and you still want to learn, contact your local observatory. And more so now, because restrictions are easing, they will love the business, but and they will also want to tell you everything about astronomy and the observatory itself, because that is their passion and their job. So yeah, I would say to anyone out there, go for it, most definitely. And if you're pretty comfortable with what you're doing, contact the Chile observatories, you know, and the one in Tenerife as well. I don't know about the one in Hawaii. I haven't seen many people saying that they've been able to get any time from that, but that might be for another matter or another reason. I'm not sure, but you'll definitely get the one in Chile. There is a waiting list now. There is a waiting list for it to do it because it's become so popular. Definitely.
So what would you say, I mean, in this type of situation where somebody decides just to kind of give a go and try to, again, pull the data as you would pulling pillars of creation and to kind of play around with it? So again, how do you go about when it comes to post-processing? What do you use? Again, you talked about, you know, you studying the Astro Backyard, Trevor Jones, and, you know, so what do you use and what would you recommend? What type of software for the beginner?
Well, I use Photoshop. A lot of people use PixInsight. I haven't ventured into that yet. I'm thinking about maybe next year buying a license for it and trying it. But I personally use Lightroom and Photoshop. And
because it's cheaper. I mean, the PixInsight, it's one-time fee and you have to pay membership every month.
Now with Photoshop, I know it's a monthly payment. But you get a lot of bang for your buck. You know, they're constantly updating it. They're always putting new stuff in. Now, for stacking, I use Deep Sky Stacker. It's free. It's there online. Download that. We have some amazing software guys that put out these software for free for you to use. I also use gradient exterminator that is a plugin that I put into Photoshop. And it is actually, if you're unsure about Photoshop and you know how to edit, as I say, once again, YouTube is your best friend. Everyone that is unsure can type in, how do I use Photoshop? How do I edit an photograph? And you will have a multitude of astrophotographers that have put images up, like you've got Chuck at Chuck's Astro, you've got Trevor Jones, you've got Peter Zelinskis, you've got Razine from Astrofarsography, all more than happy to show you how to do it. And without sounding derogatory, there's tutorials there that are made for dummies, and I am one of them. That's how I started out. And it was like, okay, the same with the terminology, explain it to me as if I'm a 2-year-old, because it's a different language. And it's the same with editing. People say, oh, you need to stretch the image. And I'm going, like, physically? How do I do that? But you do pick all these wee things up. And as I say, YouTube, there is an abundance of help. And the same with Facebook, any astronomy page, even Instagram. If you go on to anybody on Instagram, on any astrophotography page or astronomy page, they will help you. They will explain it to you, or they will give you links that they find. What I tend to do is I go for the beginners links, and I save them all in a folder, so that when anybody's starting out and I say, well, here's what I started off with first, and then as time went on, you know, intermediate to experienced levels, start off at the beginning with these guys, you'll understand, and they show you. They actually show you them doing it. And some of them will say, there's the image and the description and the link bio, download it and do the changes at the same time I'm doing them, so that you're learning hands-on, one-to-one. So yeah, definitely, it's there for the taking. It's
exactly. Like the social media offers so many great resources that are completely free. Like you're talking about YouTube, kind of, you know, you said it's the best place for you, was one of the best places to go. Again, now you have the forums, like, oh, you know, you can join the forums, you know, Cloudy Nights, or just
Cloudy
people.
Night, Stargazers Lounge, they're all there.
Exactly.
They're all there.
Thousands of different people are from, you know, on a global scale. And now again, we have Instagram. Again, that's how we connected with majority of the people that I had on the show. Like, people ask me, how do you connect with these people? Like, social media. That's how it works. So, and that's exactly the same, the way it works for astrophotographers as well. If you're looking to learn more about it, which again, you said the learning curve is steep, as we know in astrophotography, like, just connect with the people, just like Katie, ask her questions, because again, it's a great way for somebody who would be a brand new to learn about it while you're explaining things as well, and for somebody who is starting as well. So, but I want to ask you a question about, you mentioned all RGB filter before, again, so I know people use different type of filters, and again, you're a little bit blessed living in a Bortle 2, you mentioned, right? Bortle 2.
I'm a Bortle. I can go from a Bortle 2 to a Bortle 3, but my back garden is a Bortle 4 at the moment. You know.
Oh, it's nothing comparing
even
to
that. Yeah, I'm blessed, because I see people that you have had these conversations with on your podcast where they've had Bortle 8 and Bortle 9, and I know some friends down in London who have never seen a Bortle 3 or 4 sky. It's London is what, on the Bortle scale, London is a Bortle 8/9. It's as bad as it can get.
So what's a 10? What's a 10? Los Angeles?
Oh, I would say LA. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So the question, how do you tackle that problem? I mean, you know, what about the filters? What type of filters would you recommend to buy? You know, let's say on a budget situation.
Well, on budget situation, there's a fantastic company called Optolong, and I bought the Optolong L Enhance filter for light pollution. As I say, I get some in my back garden, but nothing compared to others. But this filter it's revolutionary. You've got it's a series. You've got the L Enhance, the L Pro, and the L Extreme, and they all do different things, but they all do the same thing by cutting out light pollution. But the L Enhance is great for getting through the light pollution and bringing out the color and the nebulosities of any nebulas out there. Whereas the Pro and the Extreme, you would be using that for the likes of galaxies, you know. You get the double waveband ones, and then, as I say, you've got your galaxy ones, but they all come down to the same thing in the long run. It's to eradicate the light pollution as best as it possibly can. And I saw a big difference the first time I ever bought this filter. And I only bought it a few months back. And it's pristine 2-inch round glass. And I have it sat inside the space cap. And recently I just bought a filter drawer for it, because it meant having to take the filter on and off when I was taking photos of galaxies. It kind of was hiding a lot of the detail in it. But whereas when it came to nebulosity, any nebula that I wanted to shoot, whether that was the Flaming Star, the Orion, Horsehead, any light pollution was just gone, minimized, and all this color comes through. So if you're on a budget, these are a good set to get. I mean, you've got the astronomic ones as well, and both these companies will do package deals. If you're buying the whole set, they'll maybe take like 40, 50 pounds, $100 off it. Whereas if you're buying individually, yes, it will cost you that little bit more. But if you are suffering from any light pollution, whether that be street lights or you're living in the city, I highly recommend purchasing something like that and putting it in, because it will transform your imaging time. It definitely will.
Here you go. So again, Optolong and L Enhance, the one that you mentioned, the narrowband one, is 129 pounds as far as I'm seeing, and I'm looking at that from firstlightoptics.com. But again, you can go and check it out at different websites. Again, you have probably a lot of UK-based websites, and everybody has a different kind of price points. Of course, they're not going to change drastically, but still, if you do your own research, probably filters. Would you recommend filters probably to buy brand new, right? Secondhand is.
I would say, well, unless if they're secondhand, they would have to be in mint condition. Because all it takes is the slightest bit of dust or scratch or anything, and you're going to have that on your image. So I would say, if you can buy it brand new, buy it brand new. You know. That way, then you know that you're getting a pristine product. And if there's anything wrong with it, then it's up to the store to redeem, you know, and reimburse you or send you out a new one. But go with, if you can afford the brand new ones, go for them. You won't regret it. You won't regret it.
Okay, so we talked about, again, capturing, you know, objects in the night sky, again, Andromeda, Horsehead Nebula, Orion Nebula. I mean, there's a lot of different objects. You mentioned that you can see some of those objects by eye, just by looking at the sky. And we're talking about the ISS, which you said is flying by over your house. Again, so any other objects, including the satellites, do you see, you know, trails of those a lot? I mean, when it comes to post-processing, do you believe it's a huge problem now? And do you think it's going to become bigger? Where do you think we're with the situation?
Oh, well, yeah, it's become a problem for me now. I was recently spent 4 or 5 hours imaging one target.
Wow.
Only to see the end results, and there was just tons and tons of satellite lines all through it. And then you had the Starlink, which had left all these lines, and and it's so destroyed. I appreciate what Starlink's doing. I truly do. I think it's amazing that everybody's going to be able to have broadband and Wi-Fi and better speeds and what have you. But for me personally, it's ruined the night sky for astrophotographers. You can't take an image now without getting these lines all through it. So you have to learn Photoshop.
What about the observatories who don't have a Photoshop?
Yeah, well, that's true. Do you know, that's a fantastic question. I'll need to speak to Danielle about that, because obviously
we spoke about it.
Yeah, when you're looking through the telescope and just something whizzes past you, it's crazy. It's lovely to see with the naked eye, but for anyone imaging, not so much. Not so much. Now, I see the Starlink when it goes over, and I'll run outside. I'm not being a hypocrite, but I will run outside and watch this little train of Starlink going by. And then all of a sudden, when my eyes have adjusted to the dark, I see all the satellites going by, and you think, is it a satellite or is it a meteor? I'm not sure, because there's so much going on up there now. And one minute you'll see a flashing light and you think, whoa, is that a star? And the next thing you realize it's moving, and you're like, oh no, it's all through my images. So I would say the majority of photographers will agree with me on this, that yeah, pretty to see, but when you're taking your images for hours and hours on end, and you look at the end product and all you see is satellite streaks all through it, it's not so good.
Yeah, well, I don't want to mess up I don't want to be here, talking all negative and stuff, but I think it's a interesting, perspective, or maybe some news. Of course, it's going to happen in the next, I think 300 to 400,000 years. So we don't have to worry about that yet.
No,
but
I know.
I spoke with one lady. She's working on variable star observations. And there is an object called Betelgeuse.
Yes.
Yeah. So she said that basically it's one of the brightest stars, again, in our constellation Orion. And she said at the time, because they saw basically that it changed. So, it dimmed. So basically that was happening. There was a big news. So she said at some point it will become a supernova. It will explode at some point, but again, 300, 400,000 years. But she said, once that's going to happen, because I said, once that's going to happen, basically, we're talking about the light pollution here. She said, it's going to be, the night sky is going to be so bright, you will see nothing.
That's correct. She did. It's true what she's saying. You'll actually see when Betelgeuse goes into supernova, you'll actually still see this star during the day, as clear as a bell, because
that's crazy.
It's going to radiate that much light. And forgive me if the listeners think I was being negative about the Starlink and things. I'm not. As I say, I truly think it's amazing what Elon Musk is doing, and the fact that, yes, everybody's going to have the wonders of faster speed, broadband, Wi-Fi, and what have you. I was only talking from a personal point of view, that when you see all these lines in your photo, you're like, But with Photoshop, you can clone these out, you can take these out, just takes patience.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely need, SpaceX and companies like that, because it's not just because we need, to take the fancy selfies somewhere in a deep, Siberia and send them to our family, live, or to do live calls, with people. Like, there's a lot of people who are very, intelligent, genius-like type of people in the countries that don't have access to internet. So if we're going to provide those people access, you know, only good things will come out from that. So of
Almost
course,
definitely.
you know, there is good part and a bad part, and we just have to wait it to kind of understand, you know, how it's going to work out. But we don't know. We don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think the latest update was that they were going to try and maybe come up with a solution of painting these black to reflect, so that the sun's not reflecting as much light, you know, back down to us, so that astrophotographers and observers can still enjoy the night sky.
Yep.
So at least they're all talking to each other, and there is, you know, that community, and they're willing to listen and help. So, you know, as I say, it's like swings and roundabouts. You've got to balance it, you know.
Exactly.
You've got to be able to take as well as give. And fortunately, we're in a society and community where they will happily explain themselves to these large companies, and these companies are actually listening as well, you know, to the consumer market, which is great. Absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like if when people are gonna, of course I will include a link for the Stellar community as well, so people can go and listen, observe and see more of what the Stellar community is working on. So do you have any upcoming like workshops, like what's happening with the Stellar community right now and how people can be part of it, ladies especially?
Well, ladies wishing to join Stella, if they're on Instagram, you just look up "We Are Stella" and message Diana, Diana and Sarah are the founders of Stella. Stella stands for Striving to Engage Ladies in Astrophotography.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised I remembered all that. And they are the sweetest girls, sweetest women, and you put in a wee message saying, you know, I'm really interested and I'd like to become part of the Stella group, and they will get back to you. They'll message you and they'll chat to you online, and you know, give you an insight to what's there. There's also, let me think now. I'm in a few Facebook astronomy groups. One of them's called Astronomy Scotland, and it's not just for people who live in Scotland. We have members all over the world, and funnily enough, we started off with just a few hundred members, and now we're up at 3,000. It's just growing, you know, so crazily over the COVID period. And we have some amazing people that are versed in knowledge of telescopes. Other ones might be lenses. The other ones it might be mounts. They're all, you know, they're all very good at helping each other and everybody out there. Workshops wise, I just did one recently with Blackrock Castle Observatory, and I also did one last week, another one last week within 24 hours of the other one, and that was with OPT. Yeah, and we had like guest speakers on with Stella, and it was for a massive big giveaway that they were giving. And Nico Carver and all them were online. So, you know, it's an amazing community. For anyone starting out, as I say, you don't have to be an astrophotographer to enjoy these groups. If you're basically just wanting to be an observer but wanting to learn more, or just listening to some of the live feeds, the webinars, the Zoom meets, go for it. They're there. They're definitely there, and you'll be most welcomed in. As I say, they're all friendly. They're not precious about, oh, I don't want to give out any information. I've worked so hard and I don't want to share it. I have yet to come across anyone in astronomy or astrophotography.
There is no secrets in the astronomy community.
No, there is not. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is, Martin, is I thought, what planet have I been living on? I just recently found out who Dr. Becky is, Dr. Becky Smethurst, and she's a fellow at Oxford University, but she has this huge following on YouTube with these amazing funny videos. She's an astrophysicist, and all I did was I laughed at one of her videos, and the next thing I know, she was on my Instagram page and messaging me, praising me on my photography, and I'm like, this woman is taking time out her day to message me personally. So that gives you an insight to what these people are like. You know, they're so happy when they're all communicating with each other, you know. So yeah, as I say, you don't have to be a professional astrophotographer or an amateur astrophotographer. You just want to be someone who just wants to learn and be part of a community that is growing, and maybe with joining that, you might actually come round to thinking, I want to try it. I just want to try it now. But you've already made the established step of being in the group. So you will get all the support that's there, you know?
Exactly. So that's what the Stella is all about. As you said before, striving to engage ladies again in astronomy. They're not forcing anybody to, okay, you have to get started. Just engage with it, you know, become part of it. Go and follow We're Stella again on Instagram. The link is going to be there. Go and follow Katie, you know, ask her questions. Okay, how does this work? You know, what do you do? You know, just get comfortable with it, because the power of that community that you have, it is really powerful, because that's what it's all about. Because, you know, sometimes it's not going to be good all the time. You're not going to be like, oh my God, you know, you're going to be like, oh, I don't know how to figure this out. You will be like, oh my, I have a headache or whatever, I have problems at home, you know, different things, because life is life, right? But when you have that community that says, look, just keep going, you're going to find this. And, you know, I'm pretty sure you have, you know, not only the talks about astronomy, you probably talk about life and different things, right?
That's exactly it. I mean, as much as we all love the astronomy side of it, you start to build up friendship, relationships with these people. As I say, you might not have physically met them anytime soon, but you do develop this relationship with them and trust. And we have weekly meetings with Stella, and you know, because they're based in the USA, they are 8 hours behind me. So when they have their Monday meetings, it's like 3 in the morning for me. So to make it more accessible for people in the UK and Europe, they started doing Saturday morning meetings, which means they're up in the middle of the night, but I'm sitting there at 10 in the morning, all fresh as a daisy. And some of them have just come in from a full night of doing their photography. So they're buzzing with excitement and telling you what they've done. And because we're on our own network, we have separate tabs and rooms, so that if you don't want to talk about astronomy, you can go in and it will say non-astro topic. You can put in and say, oh, I'm having a rubbish day today, or, you know, I've had a bad day at work, or I can't get this to work equipment wise. People will jump on and they'll speak to you. You know, as I say, it doesn't have to be related to astronomy. It can be about anything. It's to engage these young women or just women in general to, you know, be yourself, feel free to speak about anything. And if it is astronomy related, they will come in their droves to answer and help you, because they're so proud of everyone. And it's the support. It's amazing. It's an amazing amount of support that you get. Absolutely fantastic. And there's only like 3 women in Scotland on it, and that's myself
so far.
Helena, and one of the other young girls, Amber. Other than that, it's people from all over the world. But we have now got it where we're bringing Scotland on the map into it, and as you say, hopefully engaging other young women not to be afraid. Come forward. We're there for you.
Exactly. So as I told you before, you're doing really important work, like with the, first of all, deciding to get started in this step by step, figuring everything by yourself, looking at YouTube, reading, Googling and finding, and, it's like you didn't have a lot of people to encourage you. Oh, Katie, keep going. You decided because, you wanted to do this for your own personal reasons. And now you're part of this community. And again, you have your Instagram account, which, it helps always to, to project that message, which is, all about igniting other ladies to become part of the astronomy, space science. That's why I love everything that you do, because it's very important. Because sometimes we don't think about that. We're thinking about, oh, 70 people liked my photo, 100 people liked it, a few people commented. But we don't think about how many people actually got impacted by that and actually got started. Because as I say, it's not going to be all the people who are going to be sending emails or DMing you, Katie, I started because of you. It's going to be, a few of those. But majority is just going to be in silence, but they're actually working and learning and doing stuff. So I'm pretty sure you impacted a lot of people, and I'm sure in Scotland too.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. No, I got a message recently from a young lady, and she said, you're a total inspiration to me, Katie. And I'm like, whoa. And I went, how come? And she says, well, the way you started out, as you say, I'm self-taught. I've had to teach myself. Nobody I know or nobody I socialize with is into astronomy or knows anything about it. And I say, so I had to teach myself and go online, I says, which is the best teacher of all. It's sat there for you, your computer, your laptop, your iPad, your phone. It's there at your fingertips, she says. And obviously I've seen where you've posted up images, and I'll be honest, I don't always post up my best images. Sometimes I'll put up the rubbish ones to say, look, it doesn't work out perfect every time. It can't. How else do you learn if you don't learn by your mistakes? And a lot of people will put up their best images and not show a comparison. I'm happy to show you what I've got, and here's what I did once I was able to stretch this image. Here's the finished product. And
that's more inspiring for me, at least.
Yes. Yes. And I did it recently. I'm part of the Guild of Photographers, which is a big photography organization. And it's always been based on normal photography, weddings, portraits, babies, pets. And for the last few months, on the Image of the Month competition, I started entering in deep space images. And at first, they weren't being received as well as I thought. And this one day, they put up a post saying, show us your before and after images. And I put up the Andromeda galaxy. And in the before image that I had taken, the raw image, it was the size of a pinhead. And the after was the Andromeda galaxy with the dust lanes and everything. And they asked me, is that a composite? Did you make this up? Is this for real? And I says, that is my image. After editing it in Photoshop and sitting for maybe a couple of hours, painstakingly taking my time to stretch with levels and curves, which will become your best friend ever in Photoshop, they ended up seeing this whole galaxy, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, and so the next thing I know, my phone was, all I was getting was all these ping, 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 and it was people wanting to know. And they're saying, we didn't realize you could take images like that without a telescope. So it opened up a whole new world to them. And the next thing I know, they're on the Astro forums, they've joined Instagram, Astro pages. They're now going out and trying. And I said, baby steps, start off with the Milky Way, get your stars sharp, make sure you know what you're doing. and talking them through it. And they're like, we honestly thought like these pictures, you only get them in NASA. People don't really take these with cameras. It's big fancy telescopes. No, it's not. No, it's not. And that's why I like to put up a before and after. I want people to see the truth. It's a progression. It's the evolution from A to B, and take pride in that, because that's your work. And regardless of how many likes you get or don't get, I don't base my imaging on likes. I base my imaging on people interacting with me via a message going, how did you do this? Or can you help me with that? Even if it helps one person, job done. Job done.
Exactly.
You know?
So I think encouragement for some people, and again, not sounding too negative, but there's a lot of people complaining, saying, "Oh my God, I hate my job. I'm working, in a shop stacking products on the shelves. It's boring and things like that." Look, you can, if you think you have a boring job and you kind of don't like it, without you telling your boss or colleagues too much about it. Look, you can get so much rewarded in this community by becoming an astrophotographer. Like if you ever worked boring jobs only, and now you never been recognized for that, you've never been a top employee at your company, whatever, you can get rewarded here with attention, prizes, becoming part of the community, being in scientific papers, and it goes and goes and goes and goes. And you don't have a PhD, you're not a scientist.
No,
so
I don't have anything like that.
No, I'm just talking generally, about somebody who's
Oh, definitely. As I say, it's a structured community. So if you're unhappy in your workplace and it's like, oh, life is dull and boring, no, join a community, join a forum. Some of these people are the funniest people you'll meet. They'll come out with things, and I don't mean this to sound negative and derogatory, but the old adage was that anyone in astronomy was a geek, a space geek. And
nothing wrong with that.
No, there is not. But it's like, the way I explain it is, when I grew up, golf was an old man's game. Only old pensioners wanted to golf, people that were retiring. Then comes along Tiger Woods, and he made it fashionable, and young people started to come out the woodwork to learn how to play golf. And we now have that with the likes of Helena Cochrane, Dr. Becky, young people making astronomy fashionable, because when they speak, they don't speak astro gobbledygook that the regular layman wouldn't understand. They speak in layman's terms, normal human terms that everyone can understand. Sure, if you're working in that field, in an astrophysicist field and engineering astro field, yes, you will use these terms, but not when you're on social media. They will use everyday names and terms for technology for people to understand. And if you don't ask, always, there is no dumb questions. We all had to learn somewhere. And what you might think is a dumb question, there might be 100 people behind you thinking, I was too scared to ask that. I was too scared, or too afraid, or too embarrassed. Don't be. Don't be. I'm 58 years old and I am learning every day. And for the stuff that I'm not too sure about, I will always message in any of the social media platforms I'm on, or I will ask outright. And something like this, me coming to you, Martinez, what does that actually mean? Explain it to me. And for all of 10 seconds, it might be like, I'm not dumb. I just didn't realize that's what that meant.
It is very different, exactly, because people have to understand there is you don't have to project your ego and, you know, like, oh, I'm studying the IT or the science or whatever, and you're getting involved with something new. It's just like starting a new job. You're going to be a little bit dumb when you're going to
You're the new
start, like,
kid.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're a new kid on a blog. You're like, what's happening there? I don't know things. And you're going to be asking people
Yes.
how I can do this better, how I can learn faster. So the process, it applies the same in the same manner everywhere. Same here in astrophotography. So the more questions you ask, the faster you're going to learn, and the, you know, the faster you're not going you're not going to be asking these questions anymore.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And once you have gained that bit of knowledge and it stays with you, you're happy to pass it on to someone else, and you get a great feeling when you see that someone has asked you something and you've given them an answer and they understand it. And if as I say, because sometimes someone will ask you something and you'll come out with the answer and they're like, it's still pretty vague. So you try and find, you know, somewhere in the middle where, you know, like I remember when my son was growing up and it was physics class, and he was having trouble trying to figure out certain parts of this equation. And my husband said, right, well, my young son was right into wrestling, the WWE. So what we did was we set up his little wrestling ring with his wrestlers in the format of this equation. And as soon as he's seen it in that term, everything clicked. Everything fell into place. He started to understand. It was like a jigsaw. If you just have a little bit of patience and give your time and just keep saying to the person, do you understand? Because if not, I'll explain it to you again in another way until you find a way where you're both speaking the exact same language, singing off the same hymn sheet.
Yeah,
you
because
know,
this is the ultimate mastery. Like when you can get simply, you know, difficult things that are difficult to explain and simplify to this degree where, you know, like, you know, people say a 5-year-old kid can understand that. That's what the mastery is all about. So, and again, people just like Helena and the rest of the people that you mentioned, and including yourself, you're becoming one of those people who are, you know, like explaining complex things, which again, sometimes some of those things are complex, again, for the people who are never heard about these things before. It's a brand new field. I don't know what that means. How does it work? And, you know, so you're one of those science communicators, you know, so which we need so many more people, and that's what the Stella is there for. So we can join it, learn it, ask questions, become one of them, and go and continue to teach other people as well.
Most definitely. As I say, there are no dumb questions.
Yep.
You know, there are no dumb questions. The only dumbness comes from maybe not wanting to ask, especially when the answers are, you know, there's people there willing to help, willing to answer. And if you want, you know, message me privately, direct message me, and I will get back to you. If I can help you, I'm there for you.
Got it. Katie, so if you don't mind, I have a last few questions that I wanted to ask you. So the one question that I want to ask, because I know you're now on this, you know, mission on this edge of, okay, I'm going to buy this new equipment. There's new stuff. And so do you have anything along the lines in the near future where you're thinking about maybe a home-based observatory?
Wow. Have you been speaking to my husband?
No.
You know, I actually spoke to my husband, and he's working on the grounds in the back garden, you know, laying the founds for me. He said, thinking about building you a small observatory, Katie. In Scotland, nothing small, it's wee, it's tiny, wee. So he said, I'm thinking about building you a wee observatory. And that way you can sit in there to your heart's content. And I was showing him some of the homemade observatories that I've seen online, where some guys have actually taken like massive water containers, you know, that they have outside in their gardens, and they've emptied them and halved them in two, and that's the base for their observatory. Then they get a dome put on. And I'm like, So I'm like, can you build me maybe a shed and we can have it so that the roof just flaps open? And because in Scotland, like last week, and one day we had beautiful sunshine, an hour later we had hailstones, then we had snow, then we had rain, and then back to sunshine. It's Scotland. So you're like, I need something where I can just pull the lid over quickly, the roof over quickly. And my husband, thankfully, he's got a very engineering mind, and he's very DIY minded. So he's been looking at these companies online that sell small back garden observatories as well, so that he can get ideas, but he'll get enjoyment out of building it for me, you know. But yeah, that's why I'm thinking, wow, you've been speaking to my husband, because he sees, like anybody in the beginning, you think, is this just a phase where she's, oh, I've got some pretty pictures and I want to do it and buy me this and buy me that. But we're talking years down the road. And he's like, I've seen you sit outside and go. I've driven from one end of Scotland to the other, from top to bottom, just to get dark, clear night skies. And he says, so it's not a phase. You invest so much time into it. And he says, I see you online, you're talking to people all the time, you're helping them, you're sharing stuff. And I said, but that's the beauty of it. That is the beauty. It pulls you in. And as I say, you honestly believe that you have these amazing people that become friends, even though you can't physically be with them. You know, they're in different countries. But with the beauty of technology, I can see you. And, you know, that's the communication part. It's tangible when you can see someone. Yeah.
So look, the last question that I have here, again, we're looking forward to observatory, by the way, and seeing the photos once everything is going to be finished, and the equipment that you have, and you continuing again to, you know, impact all the women that you come across, again, through Instagram or the social media, or just talking, you know, again, with the social distancing being there as well. And, you know, just educating people, what does it take? What actually doesn't take a lot. It requires a little bit of passion, probably mostly it's the passion that will get through everything. But the question now remains, again, you being in this journey for now, you know, more than 3 years, what do you think overall, like you continuing with everything that you do, what type of, do you think, legacy or the footprint you will leave behind you?
Do you know what, Martinus? I'm hoping that the images I'm creating, not just for myself, but for my family, I'm hoping that, like, my grandkids want to do that. I mean, you know, kids are so impressionable. And like me, when I was their age, when I was just a small girl, I want to show them a telescope. I want to show them, you know, these things that are out there, and say to them, you know, there's just so much out there and it's free for the taking. I want them to get interested in not just astrophotography, but astronomy, science, and grab it. You know, there's so much you can do out there, and nobody can stop you from being who you want to be. I hope that my legacy is that when my grandkids grow up and they look and they see an astronomy picture from anywhere on the planet, and they'll go, my nana did that. She used to take these images. I want them to understand that space is infinite, and I'm a great believer that we can't be alone. We can't be. I honestly do believe that there's a greater being out there or something. I mean, why create all this if it's just us? So I won't live to see it, but who knows, maybe in generations to come, there will be contact somewhere. And, you know, it's a case of, as I say, my kids, my grandkids, they look at photos online, they see something in the news where it's like Neowise. And my son says, Mom, you've got images of that. And I went, yeah, I sat outside, you know, all hours to get photos of Comet Neowise. And they're like, but we see it on the news. And I went, I saw it for real. Go outside, open your eyes, take a blanket, lie on the ground, and just enjoy what's up there. It's amazing. You know, it's a whole new world.
Exactly. So this is a great way to finish. And by the way, huge pleasure again. Thank you for the time coming over. A lot of great information actually shared, you know, for astrophotography, you know, on equipment, getting started. I'm sure you guys and girls are going to take advantage of that. Of course, you're going to find a bunch of links there in the show notes. So make sure to make that connection, because that's what the show is all about. It's not about me asking all these different questions or Katie, you know, talking about it. It doesn't end here. This is only a beginning, you know. So continue the journey again by making a contact with Katie and again becoming part of the Stella group. Yeah, it's amazing. So again, a pleasure. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been an episode 95 with Katie Hughes. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much.